Hello, good day, and welcome to the Business Brunch. My name's Melinda Ward, and I am here with cohorts Sarah Farmer and Vanessa Ashworth. And we are here to bring you 30 minutes of really useful information to help you in both your business and your personal life. Today's topic is the old favorite, procrastination. Procrastination is a funny little thing because sometimes it's strategic, sometimes it's kind of the source of some guilt. I think, like, oh, I really should be doing this, but I just can't move off the couch. And we've got lots of ideas and ways to explore procrastination and sources, the causes, the effects, and potentially how to bypass it when we feel it coming on. Drop a note in the comments, let us know you're here, and we will proceed with the introductions. Vanessa, would you like to go first on the intros?
Okay, hello everyone. I am Vanessa Ashworth and I'm a marketer. I work for eServe, and I am so happy today that it's not my specialist subject we're covering because I cannot concentrate at all in this heat. So good luck, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Sarah Farmer, Executive Coach. I'm not going to struggle at all here. What do? I work with senior leaders, leadership teams, and professionals who want to develop the mindset and skills to be exceptional in what they do, not just average. And a lot of what I do involves working around and understanding procrastination. So I'm looking forward to talking about this today. And Melinda, you are.
I am Melinda Ward. I am the Director of Solution Consulting and Managed Services for Helm 360. And so my area of speciality is management as well as business transformation and business to business type relationships and building those. But actually, Sarah is going to be kind of the focus of our attention today because she quite literally wrote the book on procrastination and the causes of it. And, obviously it's a multifaceted thing, isn't it? So I think before we get into the impact of procrastination, we have to kind of define it a bit, don't we? Because I think it's a big bucket.
Before we do that,
should we have a look at who has joined us already?
Yeah, let's say hello to everyone. So we've got Kelly Ann, Printable Art and Planners here. So do connect with everybody. Please do. We've got Augustine here who is looking for help. She's from Kenya. She's an LGBTIQ refugee and asylum seeker. And we've got Danny here who says, hello, it is toasty today. It really is. And it's not helping my focus either. It's so hard. And David is here. Good afternoon. Procrastination is my forte.
Yeah, David.
Yes, mine too. So that's all. But anyone else, do say hello. And if you've got any questions for Sarah, do put them in the comments.
Yeah.
And I will jump in at appropriate points to put them to Sarah.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is really because a lot of us might think of procrastination as only one thing with one source, or a lot of us might, some people might just think, oh, it's just people being lazy or people being unmotivated.
People being really hot.
Yeah, it does
definitely for a variety of reasons, obviously. But let's put some definitions around it first. Like, what is it really, and what can be the different causes that feed into the result that is procrastination?
So it's multifaceted. That's a big word for a hot day on a Monday, isn't it? There are lots of things going on that can cause procrastination. The stuff that I work on and what I've written about in the book is procrastination that's as a result of fear. So this is when it's actually we're getting in our own way of success. We are self-sabotaging. We've got a fear of failure, a fear of success. Vanessa and I were talking about that just before we came on air. A fear of things going wrong, a fear of getting it wrong, of not being good enough, of being laughed at, all sorts of things. So there's that side of it, which is the self-sabotage side, all right? And some of us are very, very good at that. People with imposter syndrome do this all the time. They sort of catastrophize and have this negative narrative going on is, don't do that, don't have that conversation, they're going to shout at you, don't do this. So that's a fear-based one. But then there's all the other things that are going on, which are things like you've already mentioned, just lack of motivation. It's hot. I just can't be bothered today, feeling overwhelmed because I've got too much work on. Maybe it's a bit of poor time management. There's also people who are perfectionists, which is part of imposter syndrome as well. These perfectionists that will only do something when it's perfect. So they'll say to you, I'm working on it. But actually, how long do you need to be working on it for? So there's so many signs. Oh, the other thing to mention is that we mustn't confuse these signs and symptoms with behavioral styles. So our behavioral styles preferences, if you've not ever heard of this before, I'm not going to explain all about that by now, but just think about introverts versus extroverts as a very basic start. Your extroverts tend to make faster, not better, just faster decisions, and your introverts will classically make more considered, slower decisions. This could just be a behavioral trait, or it might be underpinned by any of those things I've just said. So with anything, I say this about when I'm looking at diagnosing what's going on, look for clusters of clues and look for the why underneath it all.
Yeah.
And then you can figure out what the purpose of the procrastination is, because there is a purpose for it. There's always a purpose for it. But is it one that you want to keep, or is it one that you need to change? And is it affecting you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people might think about different causes, and David's got some point, doesn't he, Vanessa?
Yeah, so Dave says, I find for me, I have so many things I want to do and often can't decide which one to do and how to prioritize them, resulting in doing none of them. And I was going to highlight this because I think overwhelm is one that I think so many people are suffering from at the minute, because we're all kind of doing more than one person's jobs, or it feels that way.
Yeah.
The way the economy is going and everything. So I think what David's saying is overwhelm. There's just so many. How do we prioritize it? And sometimes it is quite crippling, isn't it? It's paralyzing.
It is, and it's and you make a really good point, David, actually, because so going back to what you just said, Vanessa, our minds are full all the time, and it isn't just with doing extra work, but it's 24/7. The phone's there, there's messages going off, we're constantly getting distracted. But just going back to what David said, when we haven't got a clear vision of the future, and I don't mean that just personally, I mean as a business as well, and we don't know what our goals are, we don't know what we're prioritizing or why or what impact it's going to have, it's really difficult to pick these things out and go, well, that's first, that's second. And David, you might be sitting there going, yeah, but they're all important. They won't be. I mean, they'll all be important, but there'll be orders of priority. There will be. But maybe there's a little lack of clarity around why you're doing what you're doing, what it's going to help you do. Maybe you can ask yourself those questions. There's a bit of coaching to go on behind that before you start trying to pull them apart and decide, what does what. And the problem with this is people think that procrastination is, it's just a little thing, doesn't really matter. And sometimes it is just a little thing and it doesn't really matter. But for those of us that are bothered by it, me being one, I know Vanessa is, I know Melinda less so, because you make pretty considered decisions in good time, and some people just do. Well, a lot of
them here, right?
Exactly.
I think everybody has things. I think procrastination is universal. It's just the degree of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because I can definitely say that, I can look around my house, or I can think about things I want to do in my work and say, I've been really meaning to get to that, but I keep on putting it off for whatever reason, whether it's having a tidy up of the wardrobe and taking stuff to the charity shop, or if it's, writing some document that might be useful for the team. Everybody does some of those things.
Yeah, you're right. It is all about levels of it. And just before I go into the sort of the impact of it, it might be worth just popping up Danny's, what Danny's written.
Yeah, so Danny responds to David to say our brains are wired to execute skills efficiently in one context. If we change context, it can interrupt our flow. Think of walking from one room to another and forgetting why you went in there. This is called task switching and can be improved by minimizing context changes, such as mobile phone alerts, external distractions.
Yeah,
Sorry, so I'll just say what Kelly says really quickly, and then you can. Kelly says, I write a list of things that come up throughout the day on a to-do list so I don't forget. Then the next day I'll look through those notes and put them into priority order and tick off when done.
Very good. Yeah. So both really relevant and useful things to share. So yeah, we need to minimize our distractions. They are 24/7. Absolutely. So that's something we can do. And having even that, we can procrastinate doing that.
Yeah.
You go, oh, well, I might switch off my phone or turn off social media for a day, but I won't do it just yet. That's procrastination. We're constantly sabotaging our ability to be more efficient, which is effectively we're not being if we're procrastinating. And yeah, I like Kelly's comment as well. I do that, but I end up with a longer and longer and longer and longer list.
Yeah.
What I have to do is go back to the vision. What am I trying to achieve? What's most important? What's going to help me achieve that first, second, third, and go from there. Okay, so should we just have a think about the problems that it causes? Because we've all done it. Right. The first thing is it slows us down.
Yeah, that's the big one.
So, yeah, it slows us down.
What's the real impact, though?
Yeah, is there an impact of slowing down? There absolutely is. So people are not having conversations that they need to be having. They are doing things like not going for the jobs that they really want and deserve because they're telling themselves they won't get it anyway. And so they're self-sabotaging, thinking negative thoughts, and then procrastinating about it so long that the job disappears. So they're missing out on job opportunities. They're missing out on business. When you're procrastinating, you're not as productive. So if you're running a business full of procrastinators, or if you are a business owner who is procrastinating, you are not being as efficient and you're missing out on business opportunities. The economic impact of it, either personally or professionally, is huge. And there's also a health impact as well, because for a lot of people who do this, who are very good at procrastinating and do it religiously, it causes a high level of anxiety and stress, which leads to poor health. So mental health problems, anxiety, depression, physical health, tiredness, lethargy. There's a whole plethora of things. There's another big word for me today. A whole plethora of things. I'm going for it. Of things. Thanks, Vanessa. I'm making up for your lack of words. All right. That's going on in there. And more than anything, it's just annoying. And you annoy yourself, but you annoy other people that you're working with if you're doing it, because they'll go, can we make a decision on this? And you're like, yeah, I'm not so sure. And we need to figure out what's going on to stop that cycle. Yeah, so I don't know whether you two have ever had any examples of where it's got in your way, when you've stopped yourself doing something that you needed to do. And then when you've finally done it, you've gone, oh, actually,
why did I do that weeks ago? Yeah, because you sit on decisions when actually I think the best thing to do often is just to make the decision, follow your gut instinct. You're the expert, you've got the experience, you kind of feel what's right, make the decision. You can always change your mind later and change it or adapt it or do something. But rather than sit on it and let it get to you, just go with it.
Another thing that I was thinking, just as what you were saying, Sarah, that in business sometimes people are kind of sitting on things, decisions or finishing tasks or projects. So from a management standpoint, it seems like to just keep checking in with people like arbitrarily, hey, is it done yet, is not necessarily maybe so helpful. But what about what are there more positive ways to check in with people and kind of allay fears or just help themselves a bit?
So yeah, there's a really good point is you can, if you're leading teams or if you're working in a team and you feel someone is slowing down, maybe they're procrastinating, maybe they're blocking progress in some way, instead of going in and saying, what's the matter with you? Why are you slowing it down? Which is what we want to do, because our innate fight or flight response has kicked in because we want to get on with it.
Yeah.
It's to be really empathetic and think about questions that will help them understand what's stopping them. So things like, how are you getting on with this at the moment? Is there anything getting in your way? Is there anything you're worried about? Is there anything I can do to help you? What would happen if we made this decision right now? What will happen if we don't?
Yeah.
And start them to get them to start thinking about it, and then out of that will come a load of information where you can have a proper conversation with them and say what's really worrying you. Sometimes it's I just don't know what to do. I haven't learned this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I teach you that, well, oh, thanks, then we're off. Or I'm scared because this is going to go wrong. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, because I find on big system implementation projects, which I know is a niche thing, but you can think about it with anything that's a big deliverable, whether it's marketing or, any kind of program. Just before a go live, there is always like blockers that tend to come up, and it's not because they're real blockers. In some cases it's because people are nervous that
Oh, yeah.
as long as the project is going on, they have their purpose, they know what they're doing, and there's a lower risk of failure because they're still moving forward, they're still in testing or whatever. But now if you turn the switch and call something live or done,
Real.
suddenly it's real, and
Yeah.
suddenly that accountability comes to bear. And yeah, it might all go swimmingly, it might all be great, or it might not. And so a lot of times people are actually slowing down and raising points that they're calling deal breakers or blockers, but in reality they're not.
So that they avoid that.
Because they want to delay the inevitable. And so,
Wow.
I end up having to play a little bit psychologist and be talking them through the fears and the what ifs and showing what support they have.
Now, just as a thought with that, if you have been, I'm not talking about you personally, if one has been leading a team effectively and you have made sure that they have felt psychologically safe throughout that whole project, that will be minimized, that gap at the end, because they should be excited about taking the leap.
The project team it's upper management that's usually like,
okay, but then they should
want to sign off on this thing.
but then that's because no one's joining the dots for them often enough either. We talked about this the other day, didn't we? Is we often assume that everyone knows what we're doing and that I've been given the job as a CMO or marketing guru, whatever. What is your title now, Vanessa?
I think I'm just a head of marketing.
Marketer of the world.
Yeah.
Something like that. And we assume that people know we're doing our marketing, but actually if we're not joining the dots and helping people see what's going on and explaining to them every step of the way, not in great detail at that senior level because they won't want it all, but then of course there'll be fear. The fear comes from lack of clarity, lack of knowledge, all sorts of things. And our job is to manage that up, down, sideways and everything.
Yeah. Can we go to comments? There's quite a few. Yeah. So David says to Danny and Kelly, thank you, because they both kind of jumped in to help. LinkedIn user says that he or she also loves the to-do list and uses it too. Handwritten, very good. I've just moved to Microsoft Planner because my handwritten notes are just getting long. I can't manage it. But now even my planner's unmanageable. Danny says his preference is for a deadline to spark action, so he can risk having loads of things pile up. Being aware of your tendencies and making small changes to ensure it's power and not a curse is really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then Augustine tells you a little bit more about her background story. Danny says, I have a small trip. I have a stall to prepare for in August. Sorry, David. And I know what needs doing. I just need to make a start.
So what we're going to talk about.
There's more.
I'm sorry, that was my dogs. I do apologise.
No, it's fine. Danny says to David, we often have a due date in our calendars, but do we have a start date? It helps me because I know I'm a bugger for putting things off to spark that action creativity that happens in the 11th hour. And there you go.
You think about as kids, how many of us actually would prepare for homework, exams before we had to? I mean, how many? I know my kids now, so their exams are over. Are they doing any work? No, of course they're not. They're not preparing for what's coming next or looking at what they got wrong. Most kids won't do that. And we're just kids in bigger bodies, all right? We're just the same. We're still waiting for someone to say, your homework's ready.
Yeah, until you have to. It's kind of a mode, isn't it?
But yeah, I do love Danny's comment about putting a start date in, and I've had to start doing that because the problem with putting a deadline in and knowing you've got a drop dead date, it scares the pants off you and I just have this constant like, I'm all right, then woof, stress, then back again. It's just not a good way to be. That causes anxiety, cortisol floods your body. It's not good. So should we look at what we're going to do about it?
Yes.
Let's think about that.
Help us, Sarah.
Sorry?
Help us, Sarah.
Help us. All right. First of all, if you want more details on this, although the book I've written is for leaders returning to work who have imposter syndrome, self-limiting beliefs that might get in there, well, they absolutely will get in their way of being the success they want to be. There is a 5-step system in there called the Eagle system, which I'm going to talk to you about now, which helps you take control of imposter syndrome, but it also helps you manage procrastination, which is a massive sign of imposter syndrome. It's one of the biggest markers. So the first step is always to evaluate, what are you doing and why? When's it happening? How often? If it's not a problem, it's just a one-off thing, forget about it. Give yourself a break. So you've had a bit of a procrastination break, big deal. But this is for people who are really getting stuck and it's bothering them. Figure out what you're doing, when you do it, how often you do it, and are there specific trends of things you're avoiding? Because that's quite interesting to know. Figure out what's going on. And try and ask yourself some questions that allow you to figure out the deep why. And I'm not just talking about the why, oh, I'm busy, that's why I'm procrastinating. Why are you busy? How have you got there? What's it really preventing you from? Is there anything you're worried about? Have you prioritized? Do you know why you're doing this and why you're doing the thing you need to do that you're procrastinating about in the first place? I'm not sure if that made sense, but I think you know what I mean. Go back levels to figure out how you've got here. So figure it out, evaluate. The second step is to analyze the impact of it, because we never change anything if we don't have a reason to. And if the pain of the problem isn't big enough, we ain't ever going to change it. But a lot of the time we don't consciously look into the pain of it because that's too painful and we don't like it, but we do that on the program. It's fun. But it's quite an enlightening piece, is that you look at what's happening, but who's impacting, and you look at the impact on you, your health, your wealth, anything else that's going on, your family, your colleagues, your friends. The ripple is massive usually. It's always slowing out somebody else down, impacting somebody else and affecting their day too. The next step is to think about, right, do I want to carry on doing that or not? The answer is usually no. What do I want instead? What do I need to be thinking, feeling, believing, and doing differently? And what do I need to believe about myself for this to be possible? What do I need to know? What am I missing out on information that I need to be able to do this? The next part, once you've figured that out, is to put it into practice, to learn how to do it. Because you're not just going to change a hardwired pattern of behavior overnight. It takes time, it takes practice. This is where putting in your goals, your action plan, having rewards ready for when you've done it, little things that you can reward yourself with. Just, I'm thinking back to, who is it that's setting something up? David, what if you could figure out the order of it the stuff you needed to do and why, and then you could break it down into mini milestones, tiny little goals that help you get to the next one, and you give yourself a little treat for each one of those. I don't mean chocolate, you can if you love it, but if it's a big project, you're going to get fat. But not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying you might not want to. So think about do you know when you wish you hadn't said anything and you hadn't started? I've just done that. But think about rewards and treats that are going to matter to you, that you love, that are going to make you feel good, because our brain needs the reward to remind us to move towards the pleasure of what's coming, the better life versus the pain and the stress of how it used to be. And then the very final bit is joining those dots to help other people see it. So if you're in a work situation, your clients benefit, your leaders benefit, your team benefit, so that people are kept abreast of what you're doing and why, and trust you more. They'll give you feedback and rewards, and then you're off again. It's constant positive reinforcement. Does that all make sense? If not, it's in the book.
Get the book.
5-step process. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that whole concept of prioritization is an interesting one to explore, but I think we've got a fair few comments that have come in whilst you were.
So David just says that he's svelte and chocolate doesn't make me fat. You lucky thing, if that's actually true. David also said earlier about and Danny's idea about putting a start date in is an awesome idea.
Very good.
Do that, but also, as Sarah said, have your start date, have your end date, and put in some milestones, so it's not just start date. It doesn't matter till the deadline. Put in some mini deadlines in the meantime, and then reward yourself.
Also, if you miss your start date, which is highly likely, put in, I don't know what you do then. Just give yourself a kick up the backside and JFDI. You got to do it. You got to rip the plaster off and do it.
And Kelly says that she should have been called Alice. For her, it's having too many tabs open on her laptop and jumping back and forth from them and falling down that never-ending rabbit hole. There you go, Alice.
Yeah, we think we can multitask. We absolutely can't. Focus on a thing. Have a plan. I mean, in my diary now, I actually block time out to do certain things. And if someone rings during that time, I just unless it's massively urgent, I will put the phone away and I won't answer it. It just has to wait. And then you don't feel so stressed at the end of the day.
Yeah, there was just talk about procrastination, but I bookmarked an article over the weekend that was saying exactly that, about having too many tabs open actually adding to everybody's stress levels.
Yeah.
And of course I thought, oh, I'll read that later. So now it's bookmarked and it'll be somewhere in the 3 bazillion bookmarks that I intend to read, but never have.
Too busy procrastinating. The thing is, we read the things that we know are going to make a positive impact on us. There's plenty out there that we think are nice to do. And we keep giving ourselves, we think we need to learn more and more and more. And I'm like you, I have so many things I send to myself, things to write about on LinkedIn, things to read, things to say, videos to make. And I look back at them all and go, ooh, I've had a lot of thoughts. So then maybe one of them.
But I think part of it is that prioritization thing. It's like, I looked at that and I was kind of like, I was in a bit of two minds, to be honest, because at first I thought, oh, that could be interesting. But then I also thought, well, but I kind of, on some level, I know that, so do I want to spend time doing that today? So it was kind of a value choice at that point. And it's like, oh, I'll do that in my free time. I just don't happen to have free time. What's Danny got here?
Well, Danny was just helping out Augustine with some advice, because she wants to kind of use this platform some way to kind of shout about her. Danny's just giving some advice. I just wanted to put it on just in case they weren't in the same chat,
same feed. Yeah.
So Kelly is saying that she has to go. So thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly. You can catch the tail end on replay if you need to, but we've only got a couple of minutes left. So Sarah, what sort of top tips would you like to leave us with?
One is to turn off alerts. You see me get distracted then, an alert just came in, something I bought is arriving today. I'm like, so easily distracted. So turn off alerts, really turn them off. Give yourself some structure, be kind to yourself, figure out why you do what you do. And if it's a fear-based thing, if you're worried about something, that is actually not any of them a great reason to procrastinate, but that might be something you want to have a look at, because that will be affecting you in so many other areas of your lives. And have a think about how often, where you procrastinate, why you procrastinate. And if you want more help, then you know where to come.
Yeah, I think it is important, though, especially for people who are in management, but also for people dealing with friends, family, charity committees, whatever, that it's not necessarily, procrastination is not always equal to laziness or equal to unwillingness to help.
No.
There could be legit reasons for it. We just have to be kind of open to what Sarah's saying and thinking about how can we talk to this person about this in a positive, non-accusatory manner and find out if there is a root cause. I mean, obviously, if it's somebody who's being destructive, that's a different story. But it could just.
Can I squeeze in a point? Sorry, just came to my head as you were talking. Is that a lot of the time, people who are procrastinating and missing out on things and frustrated, they have a lot of anger towards people that aren't. And I just want to say this, is that if you're frustrated because you're not getting where you want to be in life, you're missing out on things, and you are choosing to allow yourself to procrastinate and self-sabotage, own it. There is something about owning that you are doing this to yourself that is quite a relief, and that might help you spur yourself on to do something about it. But stop being neggy and angry with everyone else that isn't, because we do that an awful lot, and it makes us think it's almost accepting that it's okay to be me. It's just the way I am. I nearly swore. It's not.
Really good final point, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the own up, as you said, with your Eagle program, which I encourage everyone to do.
Well, thank you.
Buy the book, but that evaluate and own it. First step.
First step, got to be done. Too many times we're told to just, I think it's Mel Robbins who says 5-second rule, count back from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just do it. I'm afraid that doesn't work unless it's something tiny and irrelevant most of the time. It's good on top of everything else, but we've got to figure out what's going on first.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yep. Well, join us next week. We're going to have another fascinating topic. Watch our LinkedIn feeds for the invitation during the week, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good week,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.